Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Underhood Show presented by Mel Hambelton Ford. My name's Phil Nightingale. Morning, Josh.
Good morning.
Beautiful Saturday morning out there, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Hey, it's a call-in show, 316-462-3673. Hey, anything ailing your car, tires, brakes, batteries, anything in the automobile world. Love to talk to you. Love to hear your questions or whatever to help you understand the automobile better. If you got something you want to talk about, new products, whatever, or even this lovely strike we got going on. Any comments whatsoever? We get a great price package, about over $130 for each and every caller. As always, Josh, what's in that package for each and every caller?
Just for calling in.
Just for calling in. Only show I know you get paid to call in on, right?
Yeah. We'll mail it out to you, but you get the works, which is an oil change and tire rotation. We use Motorcraft oil and filter products here at Mel Hambelton Ford. While we're performing that, we're gonna complete a multi-point inspection on that vehicle, checking over the brakes, tires, steering, suspension, all the safety-related components, everything about the vehicle, just making sure that it's ready to go for that next 5,000 miles of driving. You'll also receive yourself $10 to Mel's Diner, so you can get yourself something to eat and drink while you're here with us at the Big Corner. Complete nitrogen for your tires, so you get all the great benefits that nitrogen has to offer. We don't give nitrogen enough love, I don't think.
We kind of forget about that a little bit. You're right.
From that side of things. So, yeah, complete nitrogen for your tires. And then BG products package, which consists of a can of MOA or motor oil additive for your engine oil, and then CF5 for your fuel system. Again, just getting that vehicle geared up and ready to go for that next 5,000 miles of driving.
All right, 316-462-3673. That's the number that comes right in the front desk. Tell the girls you want to get patched into the podcast. We'll get you right online here and get you going with any questions you might have. Morning, Delbert. Morning, Rex. Good morning, Jeff. Morning, Troy. And morning, Derek. However, good morning, everybody. Everybody, thanks for joining in here and stuff. I got a lot of things I'd love to talk about today and everything else, too. We had an exciting week today, this week in Atlanta. Josh and I and Lisa went there for some Model E training. So I'd love to talk about that a little bit, too. But again, anything you want to talk about, the strike, whatever, your opinions, everything is wide open here this morning to everybody get on here and have an opinion on what you want to talk about or whatever. And I'm kind of with Rex. Let's get back to work. I don't know about you, but I'm still working. You don't see any strike lines out in front of our store, right?
Yeah, would agree with that. And then, I don't know that this is, it is automotive related. It's 100% automotive related. We're going to I'm going to ask, call in with your best experience or most memorable experience of either a cab ride, an Uber ride, or something like that.
Because we had an interesting ride coming back from Atlanta to the airport on yesterday.
Had a very, very interesting ride for sure. But then here's the other thing, is that if you hop in a cab or an Uber, what are some things that you look for or look at?
I'm not sure why we got in that van is what I'm still wondering why we got in.
Because the bellboy called it.
Rang him over there. But anyway, so let's go through that. We got in this van, the three of us. And the first thing I noticed is black duct tape all over the airbag on the steering wheel. Just loaded with black.
Well, it was holding the what was airbag back together.
So the thing had been crashed, bad enough the airbags went off. And he just black electrical tape taped the airbag back together. And the van was a rattle trap. Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
I almost felt sticky getting out of it.
So first of all, this was an actual cab. This wasn't an Uber or anything like that, but it was an actual cab. And then so I noticed the push pins everywhere holding up the headliner.
Oh man, yeah, he had push pins all over. Well, that wasn't even the real headliner. I don't think. He put some of the velvet or something up in that ceiling.
So the other thing, and I don't know, it's
there
always
was a push pin about every 4 inches. No, about every 3 inches, probably.
The first, at least, at least,
maybe every inch.
So from my perspective, whenever I get into an Uber or a cab or somebody's vehicle or whatever, I always am looking at the cluster. So I'm looking for mileage. How many miles are on the car?
I do the same thing. I look at the miles too.
I'll see how many miles are on the car. Then I look for an oil change sticker to see when it was last serviced or supposed to be serviced, or what. And then also on the cluster, like how many lights are on. What's on?
Oh yeah, there's always lights on.
Well, in this particular case, there wasn't.
because he had black duct tape hiding him over.
Because he put duct tape.
And you sent me that picture of that, and I didn't catch that at first because I did try to find the miles.
Yeah.
I saw that airbag and everything else, but then you texted me that, and I looked up there. Holy crap!
And I'm guessing what the deal was is the lights were too bright at night, shining in his face, so he just put black electrical tape over to hide the lights. And I don't know, that it always cracks me up. I don't want to say cracks me up, but I just think of how important those lights are and what they're trying to tell you. And you see vehicles all the time. I mean, people will have like pictures over the, of their just whatever in there. And I was like, that's great and great as long as everything's working. But how do you know when something's not? It's not gonna fold the picture over and say, hey, I'm down here. So so call in, give us your experience, cab, Uber driver, whatever. What are things that you look at, and then maybe if you got an interesting story for riding one of those. And just the condition of the vehicle really doesn't even start our journey in that particular trip. But anyways. So let's get the phones ringing.
Yeah, let's get the phones ringing. Your most exciting time in a cab, Uber, whatever it might be. Love to hear it. And we're going to give you the price package for calling in and telling your story. So anyway, so now we head out in this lovely van, okay? And it's a rattle trap like a mother. And first thing that happened with me, I should have done. You knew where we were going exactly, and I do that most of the time too. When I get in an Uber or whatever, or even a cab, I know I make sure they're going to the right place.
Yeah, so I was started out. I just like I'm pretty sure we're not going the right way, but also not being familiar with the area at all. Maybe he knew some special route or way, and then it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I was like,
hold on a minute.
Yeah, hold on a minute. Something's not right here. My spidey senses were tingling, I guess, is to say the word. So then I looked it up on my phone, and I'm like, yeah, we're going the wrong way. It's confirmed.
And then the next thing is we could hardly understand the guy. Yeah. I don't know if you could understand him very well, but I couldn't understand him.
Yeah, I'm really wouldn't even fault him for that. We were able to because I think he understood once I told him where we were going. He understood where we were actually going. It was just maybe miscommunication to begin with of where we're actually supposed to be going.
Yeah. So then the funny part about it is, okay, so you're clearing the back. Me and Lisa's on the left side. I'm on the right side. And we go to the first stop, and all of a sudden he's got his arm stretched clear across me, and he locks the sliding door. I thought, holy moly, why are we doing this?
why are we
locking the door? Flying open, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's what he's worried about.
Based on the tape holding the airbag together, there was maybe some question as to what was going to happen with the door.
And then you turn around and tell him he's going to the wrong place, and he decides he's going to make a U-turn. And he makes a U-turn in an illegal place in front of a police car.
Well, and it was so we started going down a one-way road the wrong way.
Oh,
and we went probably about a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile down this one-way road the wrong way. Well, wouldn't you know it? After a couple of cars go by, about the third car was a police car.
Yeah, so then as we finally got turned around and made the left-hand turn back the right way, that second police car pulled up beside me, and he rolled his window down. I think he was looking for me to say, hey, need help, need something, whatever. But yeah, that was.
I don't understand how. So he had his lights going. The officer had his lights going, and then we turned around. I mean, how did you not go ahead and continue to stop him? I mean, they had to have had something. A bigger fish to fry at the end of at the end of that deal or whatever. Just to
Delbert said he had GPS issues. No, he didn't have a GPS. I can promise you that. He didn't have his phone. I mean, he didn't have nothing going on.
Yeah,
but I'm sure he's been in Atlanta forever. He probably knows every dang road there is to go to and everything else too. From that part.
Yeah, and not to get in with somebody and expect them to know exactly where they're going and what way and stuff like that. It would be impossible, I would think, especially you get into a bigger city like that. And, so from a Uber driver perspective, I could see, or cab driver perspective, the pressure that's on you to go the right way. And then now with the GPS on the phones and knowing exactly which way and everything, years ago, that guy, we would have been to three states before we knew we were going. Before we knew we were going the wrong direction. Yeah.
All
For
right,
sure.
316-462-3673. Let's hear about your lovely Uber rides or cab rides or the fun times you've had in them or whatever. And you get the great price package about over $130 for each and every caller. So now I'm going to back up to the chat line for a minute. Josh, we're going to change gears a little bit. I want to talk about this for a minute. So Joshua says, why is the wait for service a month? I spent $100K on vehicles at your dealership since 2019. Well, Joshua, I understand your situation. I'm going to give you my opinion. I want Josh to add into that after that part from that too. And Joshua, we, at Quick Lane, we try to do the same day service, same everything, walk in, that kind of thing. So if you need normal routine maintenance, that can get done at Quick Lane. We got the 48 bay Quick Lane down there that runs about 150 cars a day through it from that part. So I'm not sure what you're needing done on your vehicles or whatever. The main story, you're right. We are that far behind just due to the fact of how many appointments we have, how many customers we have, and trying to get everything in there. Do I like that it's a month long, Josh? No, I don't. I hate it. But we also know that the people that have waited and the people that need to get taken care of and all that kind of stuff, some of it's still a parts issue. It's trying to get parts and things like that lined up stuff too. But let me tell you, every day we are working diligently to watch our schedules, to watch how we can schedule, what we can do, and all that kind of stuff too. And my best thing I can give you, Josh, if you rolled into a restaurant and there was nobody there, would you want to eat there? I don't know about you, but I don't. I want to go to a restaurant that's busy, that everybody's there. It's good to wait for the good food and everything else in that part. I know that might not be a good analogy for the month of that part, Josh, but that is part of the issue. Is what we're doing is we're trying to take care of everybody as best we can and make realistic time stamps on what we need to do and give you realistic times when we can get your car in and actually get it done and get it back to you from that part. So that's my 2 cents, Josh. What else you got to add to tell Josh for that situation?
In addition to that, it really depends on what's going on with the vehicle. Like you said, the Quick Lane facility, as far as maintenance goes and getting things in and out, if you have a down vehicle, and we have to allow for that because we do have a customer base and there are cars that, break to a point where you can't operate it or drive it. That's an emergency situation or an important situation, and we have to allow for that capacity in the shop. And so the main reasoning for the scheduling being that far out is, like you said, when you set that appointment and you bring that vehicle in, it's like top priority that we get that thing in and diagnosed same day for when you've actually made that appointment. The last thing we want to have done is, okay, now you set that appointment that far out and we don't get to it and it takes 2 or 3 days or whatever. And that's what happens when you overschedule stuff. And it's just a matter of trying to get everybody taken care of in the best manner we can. There are extenuating, this is not a black and white deal. There are extenuating circumstances for everything, and it's just a matter of good, clear communication of what your expectations are, what your needs are, and then letting us try to meet those needs to the best of our ability, from that side. So if you have something going on outside of that, if it's something that's more detrimental that can't wait that length of time, like I don't want anybody driving around on something that's going to leave them stranded or on the side of the road,
or on a hot day,
or on a hot day and not have air conditioning. Yeah. There's but again, there's extenuating circumstances in every situation. It's just a matter about having good, clear communication on what we can do and then working together, because it's a partnership. It's not just what's best for us, but also you have to understand that as a customer side of things, that we're doing everything we can to get everybody taken care of from that.
And Joshua, I tell you, I hate that it is that long of a wait. We're actively trying to, what we need more technicians. We have the bays available for some more techs. We're doing all kinds of things every way feasibly possible to hire more good quality techs. I'm not going to hire just a body to come in here and mess up your car because he doesn't know what he's doing. And that's the next thing is too, Josh, you can go anywhere and get your car worked on. I get it. But are you going to get a good quality technician that knows what he's doing, has the right tools, has the right equipment to diagnose and perform the services like they need to be done on your car?
Sure.
That's the other aspect behind it. I don't want to, I went in that aftermarket world for just a little bit and knew I needed to get back out of it because of the training, the knowledge, the tools, the equipment, and everything else, and the technology that we have today to diagnose these cars and to fix them correctly. Anybody can guess and go get a code reader.
And sometimes might be right at guessing, but also at what expense? How many parts did we try before then? How much labor did you pay for before then to try and guess at something.
Just like the other day, I was at Salina Racetrack, and the guy pulled up and said, "Yeah, I went in O'Reilly. They told me it's just code. I just need to put this part on, and when can I get it and get it done?" I said, "Wait, whoa, slow down." I said, "How do you know that's what it is?" Well, that's what the code said it was.
Yeah.
I agree. There's a description at the top of that code that says what's the description of the code. That doesn't mean that's the failed part. So you got to be careful with that, because what's O'Reilly want to do? They just want to sell you parts. So if they sell you 2 or 3 parts if you fix the car, is it their fault? No, they told you the code was. You start putting parts on it. That might not be what it is. But we want to we have the right technology. And the next thing is, I call those things, they have code readers. They're not a scan tool. They can't get into the history and deep dive into these codes to know exactly what's happened, when it's happened, how long it's happened, when's the last time it failed, everything else from that part too. So anyway, Joshua, I understand your frustration. I do. We're doing everything we can to speed it up to get things not being as long as it has to be. And I understand you spend a lot of money. We appreciate you've spent that money. We've got a lot of customers done the same way from that part. And we're just trying to get everybody taken care of the best way feasibly we possibly can and get them in and out. So anyway, here's another one.
Okay.
Jeff says, best service shop I ever had, used my biggest frustration. It could not duplicate it in the shop. And, that is kind of hard. I mean, and this is one thing that I struggle with just a little bit too with us today is knowing exactly what it is to fix it. We got to, years ago it was complaint, cause, correction. And the first thing the technician needed to do is duplicate the problem.
Verify the concern.
Back in those days when I was wrenching, you could duplicate the problem because it was a constant deal. Now these lights and things come on when we're starting to have a little bit of deterioration. It can pick that up real quick, and the fault might not be there exactly when the car comes in.
Well, and we can even go, even further to that is, when the diagnostic trouble code first came out, how many codes were there?
20.
Yeah. And so now, I mean, we're talking thousands of codes, and not only just so you can have an oxygen sensor code, which years ago you could have an
code
oxygen
13.
sensor code.
If you had a code 13, I promise you it was an oxygen sensor.
And right now there's probably 30 oxygen sensor codes for that. And what they're trying to do is just make it to where it's narrows down the condition of the fault, but also if it's able to detect sensors that are degrading or becoming weaker and weaker or whatever, and like you said, it may not be failing. There's so many different things that could be wrong with the thing, and the last thing I want to do is spend your money
and not fix it,
or completely put the wrong part on it. I mean, we're graded by that through the manufacturer and stuff like that, but I would much rather take a educated guess at something on the warranty side of things to keep a customer from having to come back for another visit. But sometimes that becomes very hard to do, because what's that educated guess?
Well, I'll give you an example. We've got a Super Duty in the shop right now, and it's coming in for about 3 or 4 different lights coming on. And the reason 3 or 4 different lights are coming on is because when one thing fails, it shuts down another and turns on different lights and stuff. So a technician's got to have the knowledge and the technology and training to be able to know how to dissect into those codes. And I was back there talking to the technician. The customer's frustrated because we can't guess what. Code's been 15 days since the code came back into play. Well, they don't want the car back till we fix it. I get it. And so, I was back there talking with the service advisor and the tech last night saying, okay, what can we do? He says, well, I want to try to duplicate. I said, it's been 15 days. You could drive it 14 days and never duplicate it again. Or it might come right back on. You just never know what that is. And that's the first thing he said. I guess I got to get my best educated guess out. And I said, yeah, I think that's what we got to go try or do something for that.
And then the other thing is from a consumer's side of things, like, man, all the more information that you could give the service department, it matters. It makes a huge difference when you have somebody that says, hey, my engine light comes on, or this happens. Well, okay. Versus, hey, I was doing this, and this, and experienced this, just how you're operating the vehicle and what conditions it's under, and, ambient temperature and vehicle temperature and all that stuff in in some cases it may not matter at all, but at least if we try to replicate what you're experiencing under the same conditions that you were in, the likelihood of, because so many times there's a commonalities in between those conditions and how the vehicle acts. And then the other thing is too, everybody drives different ways. That's why there's no blanketed maintenance schedule out there that works uh for everybody exactly the same way, is because the way we operate a vehicle, so many times I've seen where we've put up to hundreds of miles on a vehicle and never got it to do anything, and then you go for a ride with the customer, and in very short distances the vehicle's doing what they were saying it was doing. And it's just
we don't know how to
yeah,
duplicate how
just
they
the way
drive.
that they're operating it versus the way we were operating it, and stuff like that. I can think of a scenario with a rental car. It was a ST Edge,
Okay.
and brand new. I mean, had, I think, 100 miles on it when it very first came in, and they would just be driving along, or the complaint was they'd just be driving along, and it would the temperature light would just peg and say that it was hot, and then it would go into a derate mode or a fail-safe mode, so it didn't have all the power and everything like that. And we looked at the thing and drove it. Gosh, it was 150 miles, and never got it to act up, do anything. I think the first time it was just unable to duplicate, like what you were saying. So I ended up giving it back to the rental car company, and went back and they rented it out, a couple of different times, and brought it back in. And now we're talking that it had probably 2,000, 3,000 miles on it. Same complaint.
Mm-hmm.
So then at that point, we're digging into it again, drove it a substantial amount of miles. Couldn't get it to do anything, but we put the most common thing was the temperature sensor in it, because the information that the scan tool was giving us, there was no looking at the other, like the transmission temperature sensor and other components of the computer and the sensors that were in there. Like, it looked like the coolant was getting hot, but really like engine oil temperature. Nothing else was getting hot. It was just kind of the coolant system. So we put the temperature sensor for the engine coolant temperature in there. Now there's two engine coolant temperature sensors, one for the coolant and then one for really cylinder head temperature. So we put the one in it, and again, going back to what do you guess?
Yeah.
How do you do that? So went through, did that repair as a guess, even still unable to duplicate it, gave it back to the rental company. They took it out, again, came back in probably 3,000 or 4,000 miles later, again, same complaint. So finally, at this point, we opened a hotline ticket on it, and I'm getting involved in this thing. And we had drove it at that point, and I understand the rental car company, they can't rent it out until it's fixed.
Right.
They can't do it. They can't just leave somebody stranded on the side of the road or whatever like that. And so now I'm starting to drive the thing. Well, come to find out, in order to get it to replicate, you had to accelerate at wide open throttle.
Oh, so we're taking good care of that rental car out there. That's what's
So
happening.
it was 100% how you would envision somebody driving a rental car is the only way that you could get this thing to, but you had to have it at wide open throttle, and you had to hold it there from probably 0 to about 80. And when it got to 80, everything was fine. And then it just all of a sudden would peg the gauge. Well, what it came down to is a passage in one of the passages that provide coolant to the sensor. There was an obstruction in it, and it ended up, we put a complete engine in it for the thing, but the only way
it was getting hot.
Yeah, it
really was.
It was, but just in that one passage
couldn't flow enough coolant
to it. And the only way to replicate that thing was throttle to the floor for an extended period of time. Sounds like
what Jeff's saying here. He says, I have a clunking sound when I rev it to about 6,000 RPMs in neutral and drop it into drive. Typical rental car situation.
Yeah. And so, you know, in
I've
those,
never abused a rental car. Have you?
I don't even, I can't, I don't think the statute of limitations is run out on some of that stuff. So we'll save that for another
Kind of like
show.
Days of Thunder, right?
Yeah.
Got a problem with a radiator.
We drove I don't know, we paid for a full tank of fuel one time at, we were in Vegas and, we wanted to go to the Hoover Dam. There was 6 of us and it was a minivan or van or something like that. Well, the only way you could rent the car was a tank of fuel. Well, you don't need a tank of fuel going to the Hoover Dam and back. And so we tried using all of it, but anyways. So yeah, and you know, if there would have been a customer behind
Perch
that,
is on her way here to see
if there would have been a customer behind that would have explained, you know, hey,
this is what I'm doing to make it happen.
This is what I'm doing, and so like the very first time in, we could replicate that. We can figure out what's going on with it and go on down the road, you know. So
yep. So anyway, as much as I would love to think the cars can diagnose themselves, it can't happen. I understand your frustration as a consumer saying, hey, the light's on, here's the code, you should be able to fix it, I wish it was as that easy every time to fix these cars like that. But again, it goes back to the knowledge these techs have, the tools they have, and everything else like that. And again, all the different platforms that are out there to help technicians diagnose cars and other technicians that have fought the same thing or whatever. And then there's bulletins out there that Ford has found and that other technicians have found, and Ford lets everybody know, hey, here's what's happened here. Go to this harness, go to this, to fix these cars. So again, can you get that in the aftermarket world? No. So back to Joshua's situation, Joshua, I want to take care of as many cars as we can. And I do believe that the independent world's got a niche for their type of vehicles they can work on or whatever. But if you want it done right and want it done with the technical situation and the good parts and all that kind of stuff, sorry, we got to wait a little bit, but we are doing what we can to work on those wait times. So anyway, we got to get these phones ringing. We need to hear about your Uber rides.
Yeah.
The interesting stories you might have or whatever. What's that other one? Taxi Cab Confessions that used to have on TV? Wasn't that something like that or something?
Oh, yeah. I don't know on that. Like as a TV show or something?
People getting taxi cabs all drunk.
And just some of the stuff they say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you get into an Uber or there's guys texting us. He needs to call in and we need to discuss Stanley, because that's the other. So the not rental car, the taxi cab ride that we had in Atlanta, that is probably, I'm going to say, half as crazy as Stanley in Vegas. Like, it was the craziest cab ride I think I'd ever been on.
Who's Stanley?
That's the cab driver.
Was I with you?
No.
Oh, okay.
The guy that's texting us.
Oh, the guy's texting
you. Was in there, and I don't know. Maybe he don't remember Stanley. I bet he does.
Yeah, maybe he had too many of them maybe he had too many of those Coors Lights that he drinks. Maybe. So I don't remember it, huh? All right, hey, let's get the phones ringing. 316-462-3673. Anything ailing your car, tires, brakes, batteries? Love to hear from you. Want to give this great price package about over $130 for each and every caller. And it can be anything in all the world. We'll talk about this lovely strike that's going on. It's driving us all crazy. Talk about new products, whatever it might be. Love to hear from you. 316-462-3673.
You know, I've not So I've not been as up on the GM and Stellantis side of this. I don't know. Do you know kind of where?
Well, here's my problem is trying to know what media to look at.
Yeah.
What to really believe you're hearing, because what the media puts out there. And then the next thing is when you see some of these things, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's on Instagram, or whether it's on TikTok, wherever it might be, is how old is it? How old is the data how old is that video you're seeing and everything else? Like, is it current or whatever from that part? It's hard for me to know. And, here's my deal is I understand these workers need a different contract or whatever from that part, but I don't think that everyone's thinking about how detrimental it's doing, not just the UAW workers that aren't working, all the suppliers, all the people, all the truck drivers, all the things that go into play to make these dealerships run, make these plants run, to make everything go, and what it's doing. Let's get this thing behind us. We got to have a compromise. It can't be just a one-sided deal. in my opinion. And I understand both sides. I really do. But let's get a compromise together and let's quit trying to tear our world apart. Let's get everybody back to work, back together, and get some kind of a compromise to make this work.
And I don't know, my biggest thing out of all this is the only person, I mean, it's affecting a lot of people, but really what you're doing is jacking with the consumer.
Yeah.
And that's the person at the end of the day that really makes your paycheck.
You know, I understand. That's my thing. Shutting down the parts depots is what's blowing me away more than anything, because that's the end consumer. I mean, you guys that are striking, do you realize that maybe some of your family members or close friends or whatever need some parts and now they can't get them? That's where I'm blown away on that side of the coin. Now, buying new cars, does everybody have to buy a car today? No, there's used cars to buy and everything else in that part. But let's get back to work. Let's get a compromise together, and let's put something here that's going to be compromised for both sides. It can't be what's good for one side and one side or the other. And, you know, who knows what the negotiation talks are going on and everything else from that part. I don't know. I just wish it was over so we could all get back to work. We can go back to doing what we need to do to make and build cars and everything else too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yep.
So anyway, Josh and I and Lisa, we were in Atlanta this week for some EV training, and want to talk about a couple things we learned about the EVs and stuff while we were there. And I didn't realize there's as much technology in these batteries and in these cars that is happening in their stuff too. Am I a big fan of the electric? You know, I love the ICE motors. I love the sound. I love all the stuff. That Mach-E GT, that's fun to drive. It's quick, it's fast, it's crazy. For as much as I love speed and torque and all that kind of stuff, it's crazy what that thing can do from that part. I think there's a niche, and I've learned that there's a more bigger niche than what we think for an electric car that we don't think about all the way through. That's one thing I want to get into is everybody complains about cold weather. Oh, we got a caller?
Yeah, we do. So apologize, but Delbert. It's Delbert. Good morning, Delbert. How are you?
Good morning, gentlemen.
You are live.
Stories, but I'm not going to share them all, of course.
Oh, I bet you do have some stories. Yeah, I bet you do have some stories.
I have some from Wichita, and I have some from Oklahoma City.
So, how many years? Yeah, how many years have you done that?
Well, February will make 7 years for Uber Lyft. I quit doing Uber over a year ago because Lyft is so much more lucrative down here.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
So is that a per market area, you think, or what's the difference there?
I wish I could understand that a little bit. I did Uber for more years here, and I'm just now on my first year with Lyft full time. Well, not full time. I'm a part-time driver, so get that out there. I do about 25 hours a week. And you guys know about my most recent video. So, excuse me. But yeah, that was a fun time getting pulled over by the cops, and you're not the problem. It's the passengers. So,
Josh, that been your problem once before?
No.
Okay.
No, I try. If I try to get a ride from somebody, I try to be pretty respectful because I want to get where I'm going and not just taking somewhere that I don't belong in a place that I don't know. So,
one of the things I hear from passengers more than anything that's happened in my car is the fact that they get in somebody's car that doesn't have air conditioning, smells like marijuana, or serious severe smoke. And I asked them, I said, did you turn them in? And they would say no. I said, why? Why would you not turn them in for what you saw? Uber and Lyft do not know what you're seeing unless you tell them.
Yeah.
And they look at me and go, yeah, you're right.
I don't know. My biggest fear with that kind of situation, I'd be worried about retaliation.
Yeah.
That's my only thing that scare me is retaliation.
Well, how are they going to retaliate on you? They don't know who you are.
They can't tell by that app who we are?
Is your first name. No. All they can see is your first name. Unless you put your full name in there, unless you put Mel Hambelton Ford in there, all they can see is your first name. So, and if you put a picture, they see a picture. You don't have to put a picture as a passenger. Only drivers have to put pictures.
I guess I better go check out my Uber
profile
app and see what I've got there going on in that part. But anyway, I would still be worried about it because they know where they took
you. Find a car that is having issues, it, spits and sputters when they're trying to drive it, or it's damaged. I wouldn't say hail damage, because a lot of people have hail damage in our communities here just because of where we live. So, but if it's damaged from a car accident and it's being held together by tape, or if it just seems like an unsafe vehicle, just turn it in. Let them understand what's going on, because you're the one that has to live through that ride. And if you can't feel safe, it's a safety issue, and they will take care of those safety issues.
Sure.
But make sure you're turning them in for something that's true. Don't just turn them in.
Yeah. Well, my thing, every time, I'm going to be honest with you, every time I've got in an Uber, I've done more Uber than Lyft, but every time I've really got in one of those cars, either way, they are a pretty reasonable new car.
Yeah. Don't
have a ton of miles on them, and they do smell clean and good, and the car is clean and all that kind of stuff. But this wasn't an Uber or Lyft. We got in Atlanta. This was a cab.
cab.
I don't even know if it really was a cab. Somebody just slapped some decals on the side of his van
and waited in a line.
Waited in a line for someone to pick him up. There was no meter or nothing in the car.
We got some of that here in Oklahoma City too. So be careful when you get a taxi here as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I get that too. But it was an interesting ride. But I do think that cop was looking for me to motion him or do something that we were in trouble with. We need some help or something, as he rolled his window down beside us. And I just looked at him. I didn't do anything, because I did think we was going to get pulled over.
Well,
when the siren went off and everything else like that, I really thought that they were going to pull him over.
That was going to be the end of that deal.
Wow.
And we'd be walking, because they're going to take him in.
That was the only time I ever been pulled over, is when that situation occurred where I had two criminals in the car that I had no idea of, and it was within 2 miles of me picking them up, because they were waiting on a second police car to come and assist with the abduction of the two individuals in my car. That's what I'll call it.
Yeah, that's lovely. Don't be part of that deal.
And for those that don't know, they pulled me over. I let the cops in the back doors, because all of our cars lock these days when we start driving, the new ones.
Yep.
And they never came to the driver's door. They came to the passenger door. So that told me something in my head. And so when I let them out, they grabbed the boys by their wrists, pulled them out of the car gently, took them back to the police car. They didn't fight, so that was good.
Well, that's
and they found a 9mm on one and a 38 special on the other.
Did you get paid for that ride? Probably not.
I got full payment from Lyft after I called them. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh really? Okay.
But I was detained for over an hour with the cops waiting on them to release me for my statement. So I mean, I didn't make any money, and I quit that day, obviously.
Yeah. No kidding. I would have quit too.
So I took a couple days off,
place to run and
reevaluated my situation.
Reevaluated.
Decided where and when I was going to do this.
Yeah, I bet so too. So that would be part of my fear stuff too, is who you're picking up, who you got, who's coming, all that kind of stuff, too.
Yeah, we never know who we're getting. Even if it says a person's name, you might be getting their girlfriend or their boyfriend, because they're giving them a ride to, let's just say it, do a booty call, if you will.
Oh, one of those deals. Never thought of that deal. How about that, Josh? Booty call time. Let's get an Uber.
Get your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, and get them out there.
Yep, exactly. So, well, all right, Delbert. Hey, thanks for the info. Thanks for the information. Love it. From that part.
Just as a reiteration, Josh, please don't send me a
you got it.
All right, buddy. You guys have a great day.
You too.
I hope somebody else calls in. Get on this phone. Get them called in. Make some more statements out here for these guys. Oh, and talk about the warranties that you guys offer on your repairs for different vehicles, Fords, GMs, all that good stuff.
Yeah,
right.
We can certainly do that. That goes. Thanks for the call, Delbert.
You're right.
Anyway, the other thing I want to talk about, we learned in Atlanta when Delbert started calling in there, the technology that's in these electric cars. And again, it's making me be more open-minded about the electric cars and what we should be and that sort of thing too. But a lot of this is, I'm telling you, everybody, it's the CAFE ratings, corporate average fuel economy that the government is mandated on these manufacturers that they got to hit. And the only way they can hit it and keep selling the F-150s is they got to make these electric cars offset it. And so there's stats out there, and For every Lightning truck that Ford sells, that's able to let them make another 10 F-150s to hit the CAFE rating. Every Mach-E gets them another 4 F-150s for every Mach-E that they sell to do that. So if we all want to continue to drive our F-150s like we all do, and as many F-150s as we sell and as Ford sells across the country, and again, Super Duty is not in that picture because it's not rated in the CAFE ratings, but to keep driving these F-150s, we've got to figure out a way to do that. So I really, truly believe down the road, not anytime in the near future, but it's going to end up that we're going to have an electric car in our garage and an ICE car in our garage. I really, truly believe that part of it. But also some of the things we learned made me think about how it's easier to drive an electric car. And let's first go where I was headed is the cold weather drive.
Yeah.
And I had no idea where most of that battery is getting killed in the cold weather. Everybody just thinks it's cold weather, and it just takes more, and it does take more energy to move the car when it's cold and everything else too. But they're talking about conditioning the battery.
So the other side of that is I don't even think the consumers understand that like the battery is the bottom of the car. So the whole underside of the car.
Yeah.
So your elements, I mean, it's exposed to the elements, to the cool, to the heat.
And let's go back.
Like that.
A gas motor truck too, or car, whatever. Does it get the same mileage when it's cold as it is hot? No, it doesn't. It's less too in the cold weather. But what's happening to you is, let's say you know that you leave every morning at 7:30 in the morning, and you just take your electric car, you've got it plugged in, you unplug it, you back out of the driveway, and you take off. Well, that battery is going to get cold, and it's got to warm up to be efficient. So in other words, it's taking energy out of that battery to warm itself up to be efficient, and that's where a lot of the range goes away. So if you will get on your Ford Pass app and tell the car that, hey, charge me too. And again, they're also saying only charge them to 90%, and you can do that in the app to charge it to 90%. Don't charge it to 100. I'm the big fan. I got to have everything as high as I can get it. I don't know about you from that part. But charge it to 90% and tell the car you're going to leave at 7:30. So what it'll do, it'll charge you to 90%, but it's also going to condition that battery and make it warm while it's on the charger before you leave. So as you pull out of your driveway, the battery's warm. It's its most efficient mode. Now, granted, what we forget about is we're going to run our electric seats, heated seats that are electric. We're going to run our heated steering wheel that's electric. And our heater that's in our car now is electric. So all those other things going into play, and it was
don't forget about the radio.
Radio.
Got to have Taylor Swift on.
Yeah. Now I know what your favorite listener is now, Josh.
Yeah, no, that isn't it.
But all the things we're using, and that's where I remember this last winter where some guys were saying, hey, turn off your heater, just run your heated seat, turn off your heated steering wheel, and you're going to get better range. Well, that makes sense. Your body's going to be warm. You're not heating the whole car. But now all these things kind of come into play and also make sense to me a little bit. Now, what is the true mileage it will change or whatever? I don't know. I still remember when I got in that Lightning, and I did it. I didn't tell it anything I was doing. It had about 140-mile range, and I was jumping in that to go to Hutch and back for a funeral. And I was freaking out coming back because it was the mileage just kept chunking off.
Going lower and lower.
And I did make it back, no problem. But now if I would have conditioned that battery, what would that have done? I don't know. But that is part of the technology that's in the car to know to condition the battery, get it warm, get it ready to go before you go out of your garage from that part.
Well, the other side of that is using the navigation software to.
Yeah, we got to go to that side too. It's well, first thing, and let's go to the next thing is this: where everybody talks about when you hook a trailer to the Lightning, it cuts the mileage down real bad.
Yeah.
Okay, what happens to your F-150 when you hook a trailer to it? Does the mileage stay the same? It don't. No, it doesn't. It falls off too. So you can't sit there and degrade an electric car that it's going to do that. And I have towed with that Lightning, and it did. It took 2 miles off for every mile I went when I was towing about I don't know, 5,000 pounds. I would think something like that. I was towing maybe 6,000 at the max. But I expect that. That's probably what's going to do when I hook another trailer to my F-150. It's not going to get 20 miles to the gallon with a trailer, 5,000-pound trailer hooked to it. So anyway, Josh, now we can go into the technology while you're driving on a trip.
Yeah. So essentially, what the vehicle is so advanced when you put your trip into the navigation of the vehicle, and it's checking out charging points, and you've identified where you're going to go to charge and things like that. As you're driving to that charging station, it is preconditioning the battery to accept that charge. So there's a handshake that has to take place from the vehicle to the charger of, here's where I'm at, here's where I want to go, and I can take, X number of amps right out of the gate in order to achieve that. And the preconditioning that occurs are things that go and like cool the battery and make it to where it can take a larger number of amps right off the gate, so that when you hook it up, you spend less time at a charger. But if you're not using the tech in the vehicle and stuff like that, your experience of what that event or that charging event is going to be like is going to be a much greater length of time to be able to get the same amount of charge in there.
Well, yeah. So if you don't tell the car where you're going and what's doing, it doesn't condition that, then it's going to turn around and go into, you'll pull up to that level 3 and you want to get a fast charge. It's only going to take a level 2. So you're going to sit there longer than you would have had to if it could have accepted that level 3 charge.
Till that battery has time to condition itself to accept that level 3 charge.
Yeah. Cool back down, do what it's got to do, and then go in there. So you're just sitting there longer. So it's crazy that the technology they put into these batteries and the technology in the car from that part. And we don't think about all that. All we're thinking about is the anxiety that comes into getting the charge.
The charging anxiety. Yep.
So the other thing I was blown away too is they talked about charging every day. Do you need to charge every day from your car? I always tell every customer, just plug it in every night. Now
like your iPhone.
Just like your iPhone, yeah. Things on charge every night because I'm worried I'm not going to have charge tomorrow. But anyway, they say, again, charge them to just 90%. And I'm not sure I understand why not to get it to 100. But then we went through that exercise and we went almost 6 days
before you had to charge it.
Before we had to charge it. And if you have a 220 charger in your house, if you let it get down into the 20% range or the 10% range, or even 30 miles to go, if you hook it on a 220, it'll charge in 8 hours and get you back up to your 90% that you need to be from that part. But it was 6 or 7 days before we really had to charge it. And I was just in the sales meeting because I got a couple salespeople that are driving the Mach-E's and that kind of thing. And the first thing, well, I charge it every day. I got it. And I said, well, hold on a minute. How many miles a day do you drive? One guy said 50. I said, do you really drive 50? He's guessing. He doesn't really know. And the other salesperson said, I drive less than 20. I said, so you could almost go 2 weeks and not have to charge it at 20 miles a day. From that part. So I think there's all kinds of analogies and things that we're not understanding about us. I mean, we're so conditioned just to go to a gas pump every time we need gas, pump up 10, 15 minutes, we're on the road and we're back with a full tank of gas and away we go. Do I think the technology will get there with the cars and these electric cars? Yeah, but I think we're a long ways from that. I think we are. But I'm telling you, there's to get in a Mach-E and hit the gas.
It's crazy. And it doesn't matter what speed you're going, whether it's from a stop or 20 mile an hour or 40 mile an hour or, or 60 mile an hour. Like the amount of torque, the instantaneous torque that you have on those things is just crazy.
Yeah, you can almost need a Hans device because how much you're going to turn your neck back. I mean, I got dizzy one time because I kept doing it and hitting it, and I got dizzy off of it because I hit it a few too many times though. Josh, imagine that. So anyway, changed my tune a little bit on the electric side and everything else too. Is it for everyone? Absolutely not. Just like Rex just put in, he drives 300 miles a day. Can you get by? Yeah, you get the one that's got over 300 miles of range and charge it every night. You probably still could get by at 300 miles a day charging it with a 220 charger correctly. That's the next thing we learned too is what is your house capable of having to put in a charge?
Yeah.
And for example, on a Lightning, the extended range battery, it can take 80 amps. So you need a 100 amp circuit to go there. Most houses are set up to bring in 200 amps. But how many amps? What's the house already using? Can you afford to give it the charger 100 amps to charge that amount of time you need to charge? Now the Mach-E's aren't quite that big, and the standard range batteries on the Lightnings are 60, I think, if I remember right. And I think the Mach-E's are only 40. So you got to think about what's in your house and what you got there too to make that work. And some of the older houses, I guarantee you, they don't even have 200 amps coming into them.
Yeah.
But I think most of the newer houses have 200 amps. But then again, how many amps is your house taking? Can you actually give that 100 amp to that charger when it needs to have it? Maybe at nighttime you could. I don't know. But that's a lot of things where you got to get a certified electrician involved to know what your house can take, what it can do, and all that kind of stuff too, and buy the correct charger that's going to work from that part. So anyway, we got one phone call from Delbert. We wanted to hear all your exciting stuff about your Uber calls, and I guess it is what it is, right? We didn't get much excitement on that, Josh, but that's okay. So anyway, guess what time? It's about running out of time to have fun here already. So everybody, thanks everybody that's been watching, listening. We need to thank our sponsors that help us with this show. It's BG Products, all the great preventative maintenance products we use right inside here at Mel Hambelton Ford. And the great products that we're trying to read one more text coming out the deal. Shouldn't have to buy a charger. They should. Got to buy the right charger. And I agree with you. It's got to be included with the dollars it takes to charge these. That's another whole. We could spend another 30 minutes talking about that, Jeff, about how to get them charged, what it entails, the watts, the amps, and all that stuff, and what your house got, and what it can take to get you there, and everything else too. I think a 220 charge in your house is good. Just make sure you got 100 amps that you can circuit you can put to it, and away you go. But that's the short side of the stick of all the equations that go into that, using a certified electrician to help you. But anyway, BG Products, all the great preventive maintenance products we use. Big Corner Creative for all your advertising needs. Hey, if you got a business company, whatever, you need a web page design, you need your vehicle wrapped, windows wrapped, anything in the automobile advertising world. God, I can't spit anything out now, Josh. As Jesse and those guys say down there, just Google us. Big Corner Creative for all your advertising needs. And go to rent. Hey, we got a good fleet of vehicles finally back over for stand and rent. The holidays are coming. We are a little short on the 12 and 15 passenger vans. So if you're needing one of those through the end of the year, get your reservation in line. Let Stan know for the holidays coming up, so you can make sure you can get to Grandma's house with the right car and everything else too. He's got a great fleet of Expeditions and Explorers over there too to help you. If you don't want to put your miles in your car, give Stan a call right inside here at Go To Rent. Hey, everybody, have a great Saturday. Stay. It's not that hot anymore.
Not.
Oh man, winter's coming, Josh.
Yep.
I hate it, but it is what it is. So anyway, everybody, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for the great comments. And everybody have a great Saturday. We'll talk to you next Saturday.